After extensive research, archaeologists and Egyptologists have recognized that the Black Pharaohs did not come out of nowhere. They emerged from a robust African civilization in a land the Egyptians called Kush and flourished on the southern bank of the Nile since the first Egyptian dynasty around 3000 BC. The rise of Black Pharaohs in Egypt in the 25th dynasty brought to light the supremacy of an African civilization. My name is Francisca, and welcome to the Myths and Curiosities channel. Already leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any notification. Piye was the son of Kushita, king who had started the Nubian conquest of ancient Egypt, and of the Egyptian queen Sepenuptise, daughter of Osokor III. He became king of Nubia in 751 BC, having dedicated himself to the conquest of Egypt in the following years. Introducing himself as champion of the god Ammon, he manages to win the support of the clergy of this god in Thebes. His sister Amenertis was named the adored divine of Ammon. Piye was then 20 years old when his father dies and takes over as king. He returned to Napata, from where he ruled Egypt. His military deeds were engraved on a granite stele, the so-called Stele of Victory, found in the Temple of Ammon at Napata, which is now in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. He was buried in a small pyramid at El Kuru, a necropolis where several monarchs of the 25th dynasty would be buried. He was succeeded by his brother Shabaka, in accordance with the custom of Nubian royalty in attributing the succession to the king's brother. Two of his sons, Shabaka and Taharka, would also be kings of Egypt. In the 8th century BC, something surprising happened on the banks of the Nile River. Ships loaded with warriors descended the current, with the aim of conquering the decaying Egyptian empire. They were Nubian warriors from the kingdom of Cush, led by Chief Piye, who defeated all Egyptian leaders along the way. After a year of intense fighting, they walked to the north of Egypt, sailing on the Nile River, and landed in Thebes, capital of Upper Egypt. They waged a holy war against all the armies they encountered. After a year of intense fighting, all of Egypt's warlords had succumbed to its power. Many warlords cried out for mercy. In exchange for their lives, the defeated offered Piye all their riches, jewelry, and more. Troops of the Nubian ruler conquered the entire territory, starting what became known as the 25th dynasty, a period in which they reunified and strengthened the Egyptian civilization. Piye, the great Black Pharaoh, called himself the true Lord of Egypt, heir to the spiritual traditions of his predecessors. After conquering the territory, he returned to Napata, Nubia, and never returned to Egypt. For 35 years, he ruled Egypt from afar, earning him the nickname Lord of the Two Lands. In 715 BC, when he died, he was buried in the traditional pharaonic style, in a pyramid built in El Kuru, along with his horses, a necropolis where several monarchs of the 25th dynasty were buried. His military deeds were engraved on a granite stele, the so-called Stele of Victory, found in the Temple of Ammon at Napata, which is now in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. After Piye's death, his brother Shabaka assumes power in Egypt. Neferkare Shabaka, or Shabako, was the third Kushite pharaoh of the 25th dynasty of Egypt, who possibly reigned from 715 to 702 BC. Ascending to power. Among his main actions, Pharaoh Shabaka undertook a notorious set of public works. The city of Thebes, capital of Egypt, and the Temple of Luxor gained new projects. In Karnak, he ordered the construction of a statue in his honor and tried to build dikes to prevent the flooding of the houses of the populations who lived on the banks of the Nile River. Concerned with the advance of the Assyrian Empire, which at the time was experiencing the expansion of its domains, the Nubians formed an army that should contain the Assyrian domination over the cities of El-Taqi and Jerusalem. Although there are no clearer details about this battle, reports say that the then Assyrian king Sennacherib retreated his troops, giving victory to the military alliance of the Hebrews and Nubians. According to some historians, thanks to the Nubian military contribution, the Hebrew civilization enjoyed a long period in which it consolidated its main cultural and religious traditions. After this episode, there was the consolidation of the reign of Taharka, son of Piye. Under his rule, military victories guaranteed great stability to the Egyptian territories. In addition, a sequence of generous periods of reign gave tranquility to the entire population controlled by it. Taking advantage of the period of prosperity, Taharka carried out the expansion of the Temple of Ammon. On Mount Jebel Barkal, believed to be the birthplace of the god Amun, Taharka ordered the construction of 2 temples at the foot of the mountain. During his rule, the Assyrians once again affronted the Nubian dynasty. Under King Esarhaddon, the Assyrians attempted to obstruct the Egyptian trading post on the shores of Lebanon. Confident in the prosperity of his kingdom and the strength of his armies, Taharka sent troops tasked with annihilating Assyrian military action. Offering great resistance, the Assyrians won the battle and invaded Egypt in 674 BC. In the following years, the Assyrians undertook further victories that threatened the dynasty of the Black Pharaohs. The onslaughts of the Assyrian military were establishing the end of Taharka's reign. Retreating to the south, the last pharaoh of the Nubian dynasty was forced to retire to his homeland, but they continued to mark their royal tombs with pyramids, marking places like El Kuru, Nuri and Meroe with the characteristic profiles of their interpretation of the ancient Egyptian monuments. Like their mentors, the Kushite kings filled their burial chambers with treasures and decorated them with images that guaranteed wealth in the afterlife. Little was known about these kings until George Reisner, a Harvard Egyptologist, arrived in Sudan in the early 20th century. Reisner found the tombs of 5 Nubian pharaohs of Egypt and many of their successors. These findings, and subsequent investigations, rescued the first great civilization of sub-Saharan Africa from obscurity. Much remains to be discovered about the ancient pharaohs, about the Egyptians, and about Africa. Tell me here in the comments what you think. And if you haven't subscribed yet, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. See you in the next video.